There is a specific kind of person who can leave a room and still not leave your head. You know the one? They said something to you weeks ago, maybe months ago, maybe years ago, and you're still arguing with them in the shower. Still crafting the perfect response you never got to say. Still replaying the moment their face twisted, or their voice dropped, or they went quiet in that way that made you feel like you were the problem. They're not in the room, but they're living rent-free in the most valuable real estate you own, your mind. That's the thing almost nobody tells you about toxic people. Their real damage isn't the argument. It isn't the insult, the betrayal, the cold silence, or the manipulation you can point to. Their real damage is what they install inside you. A voice, a doubt, a flinch, a second guess that shows up years later when you're about to make a decision, and suddenly you hear them instead of yourself. They shape how you speak. They shape what you're willing to ask for. They shape the size of the life you think you're allowed to want. And here's the part that should make you a little angry, in a good way. Most of them don't even remember doing it. You've reorganized your entire nervous system around someone who isn't thinking about you at all. So this video is not about them. I want to be clear about that from the first minute. We are not here to diagnose the toxic people in your life or win some imaginary battle against them. We are here to do something far more important. We are going to take back the territory they've been occupying inside you, your thoughts, your reactions, your self-worth, and the future they've quietly been shrinking. By the end of this, something is going to shift. Not because I'm going to hype you up, but because you're going to see the mechanics of how control actually works. And once you see the machine, you can't unsee it. It stops working on you. Let's begin. Lesson 1, toxic people don't run on truth. They run on access. Here's something that took me a long time to understand. You cannot reason your way out of a relationship with a toxic person. And the reason is simple, but people miss it constantly. You keep trying to win the argument. You keep collecting evidence. You keep thinking, if I can just explain it clearly enough, they'll finally understand and it'll stop. But truth was never the currency. A toxic dynamic doesn't run on who's right. It runs on access, how much of you they can reach, how quickly they can get a reaction, how deep they can get into your emotional operating system. You could be 100% correct, with witnesses and documentation and a signed confession, and it would change nothing. Because they were never trying to arrive at the truth with you. They were trying to stay connected to your reactions. Think about the friend who always finds a way to minimize your pain. You tell them something hard, something that actually hurt, and somehow within 2 minutes the conversation is about them. Their worst day, their bigger problem, their reason why you're overreacting. You walk away feeling unseen and slightly crazy, wondering why you even brought it up. That's not a communication problem. That's access working exactly as designed. They reached in, adjusted how you feel about your own experience, and left you doubting your own memory of it. Here's the shift. The moment you stop trying to be understood by someone who benefits from misunderstanding you, you get an enormous amount of energy back. You are pouring gallons of effort into a container with no bottom. And once you set the container down, you realize how tired you've been carrying it. You don't have to win. You just have to stop playing. And that leads directly into the next thing, which is the actual engine of their power. Lesson 2, your reaction is the power source. Most people think a toxic person's power comes from what they do to you. It doesn't. It comes from what you do next. I want you to really sit with this, because it's uncomfortable and it's freeing at the same time. A provocation is just words in the air until you pick it up. The manipulation, the guilt trip, the passive-aggressive comment, the deliberately vague text designed to make you spiral. None of it has any force on its own. It's a key, and your reaction is the ignition. This is why certain people seem almost energized after upsetting you. You've probably noticed it and felt confused by it. You're falling apart and they seem strangely calm, even satisfied. That's not your imagination. Your emotional reaction confirms to them that they still matter, that they can still move you, that they still have a hand on the controls of your inner world. Think of the family member who says something cutting at dinner, then watches you from across the table. They're not waiting to hear your rebuttal. They're waiting to see your face change. Now I need to be careful here, because there's a toxic version of this idea floating around the internet. It tells you to feel nothing, to go cold, to become a stone. That's not what I'm saying, and honestly, that advice just turns you into a slightly more polished version of them. The shift is this: you don't suppress your reaction, you relocate it. You feel everything you feel, but you stop performing it for the person who's trying to harvest it. Your emotions become yours again, private, processed on your terms, with people who have actually earned the right to witness them. The provocation still gets thrown, you just stop catching it. And once you understand where their power actually lives, the next question becomes obvious. How do you close the door? That's where most people get it completely wrong. Lesson 3: boundaries are not punishments. Here is one of the most damaging misunderstandings about boundaries, and it keeps good people trapped for years. You think a boundary is something you do to someone, a wall, a rejection, a way of hurting them back or shutting them out. So every time you try to set one, a wave of guilt crashes in because you're a decent person and you don't want to hurt anyone and you back down. Again. But a boundary was never about them. A boundary is a statement about your behavior, not theirs. It's not "you can't do that." It's "if that happens, here's what I will do." It's the line where your responsibility ends and theirs begins. Watch the difference. "Stop yelling at me" is a demand you can't enforce, and toxic people love demands they can ignore because your enforcement becomes another reaction to feed on. But if you raise your voice, "I'm going to leave the room and we'll talk later," that's yours, fully yours. It doesn't require their permission or their agreement. It only requires that you keep your word to yourself. And that's exactly why toxic people fight boundaries so hard. Not because the boundary is cruel, but because it removes their access without asking. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't wait for them to understand. It just quietly takes back the keys. The realization I want you to hold on to is this: the guilt you feel when setting a boundary is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. Very often it's evidence that you're doing something new, something you were trained not to do. Which brings us to the leash itself. Lesson 4: guilt is the leash. If you want to understand how one person controls another over the long term, stop looking at the loud moments. Look at the guilt. Guilt is the most efficient control mechanism ever invented because it makes you carry your own cage. The toxic person doesn't have to follow you around or monitor you. They just have to install a sense of obligation deep enough that you police yourself. You cancel your own plans. You answer the call you didn't want to answer. You apologize for things that weren't yours to apologize for. You over-explain, over-give, over-function, all to quiet a guilt that was placed in you deliberately. Here, how you tell the difference between healthy guilt and manufactured guilt, because this distinction will change your life. Healthy guilt is specific and it's about your actions. You did something that violated your own values, and the guilt points to a repair you can actually make. Manufactured guilt is different. It's vague, it's constant, and it's about your existence. The sense that simply having needs, having limits, having a self, is somehow a betrayal of the other person. Healthy guilt says, "I did a bad thing." Manufactured guilt whispers, "You are a bad person for wanting anything at all." Think of the parent who sighs, "After everything I've done for you," whenever you try to live your own life. The debt is never itemized. It can never be paid off. That's the point. A debt you can settle sets you free. A debt that can never be settled keeps you on the leash forever. The shift is to stop asking, "Why do I feel so guilty?" and start asking, "Whose voice is this, and what does it want me to do?" Guilt that shrinks your life to serve someone else's comfort is not your conscience. It's their programming. Cut the leash, and you'll be shocked how much of your guilt had nothing to do with right and wrong at all. Lesson 5: silence is a complete sentence. We've been taught that closure comes from explanation. That if we can just find the right words, deliver the perfect speech, make them finally see, then we'll be free. So we explain, and explain. And the more we explain, the more entangled we get. Here, what most people never realize: every explanation you offer a manipulative person is more raw material for them to use. You hand them your reasoning and they turn it against you. You hand them your feelings and they dismiss them. You hand them your logic and they twist it into a new accusation. explanation to a toxic person isn't communication, it's supply. There's a reason interrogators keep people talking. The more you say, the more they have to work with. And in a toxic dynamic, over-explaining puts you permanently on trial, defending a case that will never reach a verdict. Silence breaks that loop. Not cold silence, not the punishing silent treatment they might use on you. That's just another manipulation wearing your face. I mean the quiet, grounded silence of a person who has decided that not every accusation deserves a defense, and not every question is asked in good faith. Why are you being like this? Doesn't require an essay. It might not require anything at all. The realization here is subtle but powerful. When you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, you're not being avoidant. You're recognizing that your piece is not up for debate, and that some doors are closed most firmly when you simply stop knocking on them. You don't owe a performance of your reasoning to someone who's only listening for the weak spot. And this naturally raises a harder question about distance and whether pulling away makes you the cold one. Lesson 6. Detachment is not the same as coldness. A lot of people resist letting go of toxic dynamics because they've confused detachment with becoming heartless. They think the only options are to stay fully entangled and keep bleeding, or to shut down completely and become someone they don't recognize. But detachment, the real kind, is not the absence of feeling. It's the presence of clarity. The Stoics had a concept that's often misquoted, so let me be careful with it. Epictetus taught that some things are within our control and some things are not, and that the entire art of living well comes from telling the difference. Your judgments, your choices, your responses, yours. Another person's character, their behavior, whether they choose to be cruel, not yours, never was. Detachment is simply moving your energy back inside the circle of what you can actually control. It's not, I don't care about you. It's, I can no longer make your behavior my full-time job. You can love someone and accept that you cannot fix them. You can wish someone well and still not let them back into your daily life. Those two things were never contradictions. We were just taught that walking away is the same as not caring, usually by the people who benefited from us staying. The example I see over and over. Someone stays exhausted for years trying to change a partner or a parent, believing that if their love were just big enough, the other person would finally become who they needed. And the day they detach isn't the day they stop loving. It's the day they stop confusing love with self-erasure. The shift is to understand that caring about someone and being responsible for them are different things. You can put something down without having it. You can release someone without hardening. Detachment isn't the wall. It's the door you finally get to close from your own side. Before we go into the last two shifts, because these next two are where the whole thing crystallizes, I want to say something briefly, and then we'll go straight back in. Everything we've talked about so far is awareness, and awareness is the beginning. But if you've ever read something that made total sense and then watched yourself fall right back into the old pattern a week later, you already know the hard truth. Understanding a pattern and being free of it are two different things. Freedom comes from repetition, from practicing the new response until it becomes more automatic than the old wound. That's the reason I put everything I know about this. The frameworks, the exact scripts for boundaries, the exercises for untraining guilt, the daily practices for staying grounded when someone tries to pull you back into my book. I wrote it as a working companion, not a lecture. Something you keep close and actually use when a difficult person is standing in front of you and your old instincts are screaming. The link is in the description if you want to go deeper than a video can take you. And now, let's finish this, because the most important part is still ahead. Lesson 7. Not everyone has earned emotional access. Here's a belief that quietly runs a lot of people's lives, and they've never once examined it. The idea that everyone deserves the same access to you. That you owe every family member the full, unguarded version of your heart. That every long-term friend gets a permanent seat at the table just for having been there a long time. That anyone who demands your vulnerability is entitled to receive it. But intimacy is not an entitlement. It's something people earn by how they handle it. Think about it in terms of trust and how it's actually built. You share something small and you watch what the other person does with it. If they hold it with care, you share something a little bigger. That's how genuine closeness develops in layers over time through demonstrated safety. Toxic people short-circuit this process. They demand deep access fast, and then they punish you for having given it. They use what you shared as leverage. They know things about you that they hold over you. So the mature move is not to become guarded with everyone. That just makes you lonely. The move is to make emotional access earned again. To notice not what someone says, but what they consistently do with the pieces of you they already have. The person who repeatedly reopens old wounds, bringing up your worst moment, your biggest insecurity, the thing you told them in confidence, is showing you clearly that they cannot be trusted with the deep water. Believe them. Adjust the depth accordingly. Not with a dramatic announcement, just quietly by what you choose to share and what you keep. The realization is this: access is not a right people are born with. It's a privilege they demonstrate they can hold. And you are fully allowed, to keep the deepest parts of yourself for the few who have proven they'll be careful with them. Which leaves the final shift, the one that's actually about your entire life. Lesson 8. Your future is built from who you let into your mind. Everything we've discussed until now has been about the present and the past. This last one is about something bigger, and it's the reason this all matters so much. The people you allow into your mind don't just affect how you feel today. They shape what you believe is possible for your entire life. Here's the mechanism, and it's more real than most people realize. The voices we're exposed to repeatedly become internalized. The child constantly told they're too much grows into an adult who apologizes for taking up space. The person whose ideas were always mocked stops offering ideas. Over enough time, you stop needing the toxic person to criticize you because you've absorbed them so thoroughly that you do it for them, automatically, in advance. You talk yourself out of the job before you apply, out of the relationship before it starts, out of the dream before you say it aloud. That is the deepest cost, and it's the one nobody sends you a bill for. Not the arguments, not the bad days, the narrowing, the slow shrinking of your sense of what you're allowed to want until you're living a smaller life and you can't quite remember who decided that. So here's the shift, and it's the one I most want you to walk away with. Guarding your mind is not vanity, and it's not weakness, and it's not you being dramatic or oversensitive. It is the single most important thing you will ever do for your future, because your future is being written, right now, by the voices you let echo in your head, and you get to decide which ones hold the pen. You are not obligated to keep hosting the voice of someone who only ever used it to make you smaller. The transformation. So let's bring this together, because something has already changed, and I want you to feel it. Toxic people are not going to vanish from the world. Let's be honest about that. There will be another difficult family member, another manipulative coworker, another person who tests your boundaries or tries to guilt you or goes quiet to make you chase. That's not pessimism. That's just reality, and pretending otherwise would leave you unprepared. But something is different now. You've seen the machine. You know their power was never in the truth, it was in the access. You know your reaction was the fuel, and you've learned you can feel everything without performing it for them. You know a boundary isn't cruelty, guilt is often a leash, silence can be a complete sentence, and detachment isn't the same as going cold. You know that access is earned, and that your future depends on the voices you let echo inside you. None of this makes you hard. That was never the goal. The goal was never to become someone who feels nothing, who trusts no one, who walks around braced for attack. That's just a wound wearing armor. The goal is to become someone who feels deeply and chooses carefully. Someone whose warmth is real precisely because it's no longer available to everyone who demands it. Someone who can be in the same room as a difficult person and stay entirely themselves, not because they've stopped caring, but because they finally know where they end and the other person begins. The people who tried to control you were counting on one thing above all else, that you'd never notice how it was done, that you'd keep believing the problem was you, that you'd stay reachable forever. You just stopped being reachable. And you don't have to announce it, or explain it, or win a single argument to make it true. It's already done. It happened somewhere in the last few minutes, quietly, the way most real changes happen. You are no longer available for toxic control. Say that to yourself, and notice that it doesn't feel like a wish anymore. It feels like a fact. The next step. Here's the honest truth about everything we just covered. You now have the awareness, but awareness fades. You know it does. You'll understand all of this perfectly tonight, and then some familiar person will push a familiar button, and your old wiring will fire before your new understanding has a chance to speak. That's not failure. That's how deeply these patterns were built. And it's exactly why awareness alone was never going to be enough. That's what my book is for. I wrote it for the person you are right now, someone who finally sees the pattern clearly and wants to make the change permanent. Inside, you'll find the actual frameworks for rebuilding boundaries, the reflection exercises for untangling manufactured guilt from your real conscience, and the practices for staying grounded and unreachable when someone tries to pull you back into the old dynamic. It's not theory. It's a manual for the repetition that turns insight into instinct. If something in this video reached you, if you felt seen even once, then the book is simply the next step in a change you've already started. The link is in the description. Not because you need to buy anything to be free, but because the people serious about protecting their mind, their emotions, and their future tend to be the ones who keep going after the video ends. You've already taken back the door. This is how you learn to keep it. Take care of your mind. It's the one place no one should get to live without your permission. If this resonated with you, the book is linked below, and I'll see you in the next one.